everybody. Welcome back to the Just Make It Pretty podcast. Today, our topic is having confidence in chaos. And we're going to touch on a lot of different things today, from leadership to anxiety to kind of hospitality and just what it takes to really be a leader in this industry and in the world that we are in right now. And I have a special guest with us that's going to talk through all of that. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Just Make It Pretty podcast, the slightly unhinged marketing podcast for home builders and beyond. I'm your host, Sarah Haynes, also known as the Pixel Wizard, and my goal is to tackle the tough stuff that goes in behind the scenes in marketing and offer actionable tips, creative insights, and a little bit of humor to spark some creativity. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get started. So our special guest today is a friend of mine. I'm so thankful that you are here with us. It is Jenna Skuza. She is the VP of Sales and Marketing at MI Homes, and I had the pleasure of working with her a little bit a couple of years ago, and it was just so amazing. She's such an amazing person. Jenna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for always saying so many nice things about me. I can say a million nice things about you, but I appreciate the introduction. Yes, I loved working with you a couple of years ago, and I think that's what really grew our work relationship and into our friendship. And I got to see a side of you and went to a women's leadership summit a few years ago that I'm just really grateful that I got to see and share in. And I think the same for you with me. So perfect timing to talk about the topics that we're going to dive into today.
Yeah, I'm excited for this conversation, and I feel a little bit selfish because I was like, I feel like I need this conversation from you. And so I was like, we're going to make this a podcast for everyone. So I'm thrilled. But before we dive too far into the topic, I'd love for you to just do a self-introduction. Tell us, how did you get into this industry? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go forward from there.
I started my career in hospitality. I've done a little bit of everything from retail and food and beverage, but I was in hospitality for several years and really enjoyed it. At some point, I had a friend who thought I would be good in real estate. So I got into general real estate for a short period of time and then grew my career into new home sales. Started on the sales floor back in Knoxville, East Tennessee, worked my way into a leadership role in Chattanooga and covered all of East Tennessee for a while and even parts of North Georgia. And then with my husband's relocation to Middle Tennessee, I worked for a couple of companies here, both small and local, into a larger scale, which national home builder, and then of course landed at MI, which is one of the nation's leading home builders as well. I have 3 children, and they range the gamut in age from 4 to almost 19. And one unique thing about me is my parents, they moved in with us a couple of years ago, and they're still with us now. So we have a house of 7, but always busy and keeping our days full. So really grateful for my family.
Yeah, your family's so cute. I love watching all your pictures on Facebook and everything. Like, especially your daughter, she's such a mini you. Like, she just looks exactly like you. And I'm like, it's so cute.
The neat thing is, like, I grew up always smiling. My dad was always a joker. And then I have my daughter, who I was so excited about having a little girl because I got boy, girl, boy. And she was so mean for so many years. Like, she always had this straight face and like always mean mugging everyone. And I'm just always smiling. Like, I was afraid of her. A long time. And anyway, but she truly is now my mini me. Like, she smiles now in picture. She used to never smile in pictures either. So the last couple of years, she's 10 now, and we really have a great relationship. So she is my mini me for sure.
That's so funny. My daughter, my 10-year-old as well, she's also my little mini me. But she was the exact same way. She was so serious. And I was like, what's wrong with this baby? She just smiles. Like, why is she so sad? But
Yeah.
it just blossoms. Like, she's just so bright and vibrant and so it's funny how that works. Maybe we were the same way. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe we were and we didn't realize.
No, very vibrant and bright now. So good for us. Let's get into this topic. So, like I shared earlier, like, I feel like this is something that I just wanted to talk to you about. And I got to see you work with your team when we were working together before. And I got a little bit of the behind the scenes look as well, because you would share, I'm a little bit uncertain about this, or I'm really nervous about this aspect of what we were working on, or this new launch we were doing. And it's very natural to have those feelings, especially when you care so much about your role and the company you're working with. And I really felt that from you. But when I would see you with your team, you were always so positive and you were always so like that this is going to be great and here's the plan that we're going to work through. And you just were so steady. And I know for myself, that's always something that I'm like, I'm worried. Like I feel all this anxiety inside. Hi, everyone. I'm a very anxious person. I have a lot of anxiety inside. And but I don't want that to come out. And I know that sometimes it does. And so I just really admired you in the way that you were able to navigate those things. And so I wanted to have this conversation because I want you to tell me, like, where do you think that skill came from and how did you like become this person that you are today?
Thank you for all that. I appreciate that. I don't know if it's a skill. Maybe it is. I never really called it a skill. That's interesting. But I think for me, when I was thinking about some of our topic, I started working at a really young age, right before I turned 15. So I think independence for me was not optional. I grew up supporting my mom in my teenage years. She was going through some health issues. Had some alcohol addiction issues. My parents then lost, my dad had lost his job and started a new company and was just investing from all of his savings into this company. And he really wanted it to work. And then it was just one struggle after another in a few-year period during my teenage years. And then we lost home. And so I think, and then you couple it with a few years later, I became a young mother, right? So independence wasn't really an option for me. It had to happen. And I think that taught me how at a very young age to be steady. I didn't want to show up at school and people to know that I was going through hard times, that there might be a day that I come home off the school bus and I don't have any power. I didn't want them to know that I had to go to my friend's house to take a shower because I didn't have any water that day. And so I think as that kind of manifested over time and snowballed over time, when I would go to work at 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, that was my structure. And that was a place where I was just who I needed to be, where I needed to be it. It was safe for me. I think it's really where I started to identify and develop my own identity. And so maybe that does translate into a skill. But I think it was because we're sometimes as humans put into situations where we don't have a choice and we have to do these things. But yeah, I would say that it's independence for me was not an option. So staying steady, that's a word that when you brought that up that I never really thought of before. But in private, am I always steady? No. But I think that we have to show up and do great things where it matters.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're totally right. We all have like life experiences and things that kind of push us one way or the other or like influence the way that we become. But I do think there's a choice in it, right? Like you have a choice to allow that to just overwhelm you and then you make all your decisions from this really anxious place, or you have the choice to be more composed and make decisions from a really grounded place. And I don't know. Personally, I don't know what makes the person like go one way or the other. But I really look up to people that have put in the work into themselves and put in all of this thought process to be like, I choose to be this way for the people that I'm showing up for. And as a leader, I think that's really important because at least for me, like I want to be a leader that makes a positive impact on the people around me. And that's able to lead them in a direction that's going to impact their careers in a positive way. And I don't think that you can do that when you're leading from your anxiety and from your fear. So it's such an important thing that I think a lot of people need to hear, that like it's more universal than they might think. I think it's an isolating thing.
For sure.
So my first question for you is, what do you feel like in those moments where you're like going through something or there's something chaotic happening, like what's in your mind when you want to appear calm but you don't actually feel calm?
Boy, what's not going through my mind when that happens? I wish I could sometimes turn it off, but you said something about, we think about calm. Being calm on the inside is like never a thing for me. My mind is always 100 miles an hour. I've met a lot of people that way. I've had employees and teammates and leaders that we joke around, but it's truth that 3 o'clock in the morning is when we have the best ideas, or we're like, oh, shoot, I forgot to pay that bill, or I didn't. Even when I waited tables, I'd be like, oh, I didn't take that person their ketchup. earlier in that lunch rush. And so I will say calm, I feel like is not something that I'm good at inside, but I do feel like if I didn't have anxiety and I didn't have fear, then I don't think I would be such a dynamic person either. I think that sometimes helps us having that anxiousness or that drive or that craziness and all these thoughts. I think that's really what keeps us going and what keeps the world going, because how would it feel if you were calm all the time, inside and out? But I will say, I think going when I think about what goes through my mind is maybe trying to, maybe there's purpose in there somewhere. So I think when I'm in a situation where there's a lot of stress and I'm having a difficult conversation with a customer or an employee or even a friend, I think what I try to remember is, what am I exuding on the outside? What is the purpose in all of this? And certainly, as silly as it sounds, I try to stay calm and breathe.
Mhm.
I can feel it. What's going through my mind when it's a very stressful situation is also like psychoanalyzing myself during that time. So is my blood pressure raising? Is my eye twitching? Can they see that? So I try to be really self-aware. And I think that's what, while my mind might be running 100 miles an hour, I try to condense it and try to calm it down so that I can then focus on the conversation or maybe pause a little bit. So what's not going through my mind is a thousand things are going through my mind. And I think that's very common for many of us. It's just sometimes hard for us to admit. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely very authentic answer. I think that is very relatable for all of us. But why do you think that is, that it's hard to admit that we're having these fears as leaders, or like these feelings?
I think it's because we as a society, when you have a leadership title or role, or you have a manager on your name tag, that you're just supposed to have it all together. It's
Mhm.
just, you're just supposed to. You're not allowed to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is a word that I've heard over the years. And I shared with you, I signed up for this Betterment Circle a few years ago because I wanted to become more vulnerable. I wanted to show more empathy and do it in a more authentic way versus just talking about it. We go through these trainings as leaders in our career for leadership and management and be empathetic, not sympathetic. But it's not always easy. And it has to sometimes be learned for some of us who have had to learn at a young age how to be steady and confident and calm, right, in stressful situations. That how do I then flip the script and become more vulnerable? And I think we confuse sometimes vulnerability with emotional regulation. I think, yeah, I think the reason it's hard for people is because they view it as a weakness. I think that title can create some of that isolation too, of I'm not allowed to be vulnerable because my team needs to see that I'm strong and steady. They need to see that I can fix it. But just because you have a management title or a leadership title, or you're even a leader without a title, it doesn't mean that you're not human. And I think that there's a more and more that I've managed people and I've gone through interviews and hiring and people walking away and exiting or firing or leaving or letting, there's just all the things about managing teams. Is I think what I've learned over the years is sometimes those folks, whether it's your peer or your employee or your own manager, forget that we're also human because of our name tag. And I say that a lot, but I think they forget that we also have feelings and we care. And
Mhm.
sometimes that care can't show up in the right way because you have to have a really difficult conversation with somebody else on the team, whether that's to better them or maybe that's not the right fit. And that impacts everybody else. So I feel like it's okay to know that as a manager, you don't have to be this superhero. You don't have to be a superhero. You don't have to have all the answers and know it all, and just show up great. Just always try your best to show up great because people are going to think what they think. And so just try to regulate that emotion a little bit more and it won't feel as bad or as uncomfortable.
That is an interesting balance, because you want to be vulnerable with your team and share that I don't have all the answers. But at the same time, you don't want to just be like vomiting like all of this just anxiety onto everybody. That's such a growth analogy. But that's what I feel like sometimes is, oh, I'm just trying to be real. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm putting a bunch of stuff on everybody else that's not really theirs to carry. And so it's just walking that line for me is how I think about it. But I definitely agree. Like our world now has told us that if you're a leader, you need to be just like this perfect poise, like picture of a person all the time. And that's so damaging for that leader. It's not how humans are, and it's not a realistic expectation.
It's not. We still have families at home. We still want to go on
Mhm.
vacation. Like we still want to, we're still people too, but we just have to learn as leaders though that we have to be really good at regulating our emotion versus feeling as if we're not allowed to have emotion at all. We just
Yeah.
have to be really good at regulating it. I think that we just have to remember that whoever we're talking to also has their own truth. And so remembering what we say and how we say it could impact their reaction back. And we have to be prepared for that as well. So it goes back to mastering the regulation of it all.
Yeah. So when you're in these rooms where like tension is high or like fears are high, right? Like as a leader, we're in those situations a lot where it's like especially in this industry or this market right now, it's like there's just a lot of stuff happening and everybody's got their own anxieties and fears. How do you shift that energy to and bring it back to this calm place where we can all have really intelligent, productive conversations?
I mentioned this earlier. I think some of it's a learned habit. I'm a big fan of Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I've read both Emotional Intelligence and Emotional Intelligence 2.0 with Travis Bradberry, and I think it's Gene Graves is how you say that, Graves. But when you're in a room full of people and you know that your inside cup is just filling of heat and anxiety, you don't want that to, like you said earlier, it's not the sexiest, but you don't want to vomit that out on somebody. But I will say that what I learned in Emotional Intelligence 2.0, and I'll be honest, I'm not perfect at it. I'm still not perfect at it, far from it, but is to be very self-aware and conscious of your body language. Sometimes you don't even have to say anything in a room full of people when there's a lot going on, and it's just how you either lean in or lean back. It could be through just staying more curious and not necessarily vomiting out answers or letting everyone know that I'm here to fix it all, like I said earlier, right? It could just simply be pausing when you need to pause, sitting in the moment with the team, taking a breath. I know sometimes pausing can feel awkward. It was something I had to learn when I was on the sales floor myself with customers because I would have this emptiness. I'm like, I got to fill up this space. My anxiety is filling up. Do they like it? Do they not like it? And I still sometimes struggle with that in front of my teams because we want to make sure what we say is powerful and impactful and isn't going to freak them out. So I do feel like it starts with how you stand up or do you sit down? Is this a conversation where I should be in front of the room or with the room and sitting with them? And so I think we don't always have to use our words. It's important the words that we use, but it's not always the words that we choose as much as it is the body language or our facial expressions. And I have had game film coaching feedback live through difficult conversations and training moments in my career where I go back and I watch myself and I'm like, ooh, probably shouldn't have looked that way. And so, wouldn't it be cool if we all had game film and when we're in these challenging moments or stressful situations or difficult conversations where we could be like, oh, I should not make that face or roll my eyes like that again. That was pretty brutal. But anyway, I think going back, I don't know if I mentioned it on the podcast or before we talked, but I try to remember, or really not remember, but think about when I'm going to have to address a stressful situation. I've learned this from a coach and mentor of mine and a friend of mine to evaluate things as if the stressful situation or maybe a high anxiety moment, if it's a movie. And what are all the characters doing? Where are they sitting? What are they thinking about? What are they going to say next? So that way I can almost not predict, but continue the movie script. And then afterwards, I can go home, reflect, and think about it and just only try to do better the next time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So what I'm hearing you say is basically there's two sides to this. It's first you have to really be in touch with yourself and really like break down, here's what I'm feeling and name it and then be like, okay, this is what I want. This is how I want to be able to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the now remove yourself from the situation completely and look at it as if you're not a part of the situation and everybody else is just like pieces in this show, like you said. So you can be more objective that way. Is am
Yes,
I understanding right?
absolutely. Absolutely. people always will have their own truth.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that I've struggled with when I have been in those rooms with you when we're strategizing over an incentive or how is this going to impact the story we're trying to tell from a marketing perspective or a business perspective. We've created collateral together for our external customers, our internal customers, and every time I've gone through that, I've said, "Oh, I'm really nervous how this is going to come out. What do you think? I'm not sure. I'm insecure. I'm not." But I do feel like if we didn't feel that way internally and have those emotions, we wouldn't be great leaders. We wouldn't be great assets to the team because that means we didn't care.
Yes.
And so even in those moments, you have to, how do I want to say it? It is like a movie, right? Like even in those moments, when you think about it, we're trying to figure out how we're going to tell these stories or do these things and how so that they can perceive it.
Yeah.
Have to be able to perceive it. Is this working well? Is this a great choice? Whether it's a consumer, a buyer, an employee, whatever it is, or internal, external customers, we're always doing things that we have all this anxiousness and angst about. And really, we have no idea how we think it's going to impact everybody in this great way. We really have no idea. So we almost have to remove ourselves from that situation so we can maybe understand their perspective and their reality of what we might be trying to accomplish. And it might be a silly example because we're talking about marketing and that example, right? And how it might influence or impact somebody. But really, it's in everything that we do. Every conversation we have impacts somebody in a different way. I can stand in front of a sales rally and say the same thing because it's only one thing that's coming out of my mouth, but there's 12 people in that room and half of them could hear it one way and the other half could hear it completely differently. So I don't want people to be discouraged by that because then you might be a little OCD and go home and be like, oh, I've done that too. I'm like, why did half the people take it this way? And then I forget the other half of the people took it the right way. But so don't get too hard on yourself, but reflect and go back to it and almost like rewatch it as if it's a movie and look at the characters and look at maybe ways that you could have said something differently or moved your body even differently or your facial response differently.
It's funny because I feel like in marketing, for marketing people specifically, our whole job is to create that story for our buyers. And so we put so much effort into that and what every little thing is going to make people perceive and all of these things. And then as a leader, you have to like turn that off in a way because you're like, I want to show up as authentically. And then I have different goals. But I feel like for myself, I end up going into a lot of situations where I'm like, all right, I got to manage everything. And I feel like I do this kind of motion where I'm just like managing every person in the room. And that's a lot. And I end up not showing up as my best self because I'm worried about that person and this person and all of the people where I feel like I need to just step back and just be like, okay, let's take account of what I'm doing first and then go out. So it's a really interesting, I do really like that analogy of watch this back as a movie. That's so good. I'm going to take that advice and try that because I think that's something that it's a little bit vulnerable because you have to look at yourself in that movie too. But it's a really good way to not have so many emotions about it while you're reflecting.
Absolutely. Everyone's a character.
Yeah. Yeah,
Everyone's a
that's really good. So when you're doing that, and I just said it's a lot to go back and do this reflection, and things can start to feel heavy, and you're going to have all of your emotions. How do you like refill that emotional tank? Or do you have any rituals that you do or anything where you're just like, this is how I bring myself back to center?
I would say it's cheesy, but I feel it's through, quite honestly, and I don't do it enough, is spa day. It's writing things down. It's reflecting. It's sometimes just throwing out a bunch of words on a piece of paper, trying to figure out. Now it's GPT, right? Like he's my friend. And I named him Sparky. And so Sparky and I will sometimes just, I'll go through my day. And if I'm feeling really emotionally maybe out of control and I have to get it together because I need to go to a meeting or I need to show up great for my employee who I'm getting ready to do a coaching session with, I just actually will just throw out a bunch of words and how I'm feeling. And so I can document it. Because if I'm driving in the car and I'm rolling down the road, I can't put it on cruise control. Maybe I do that sometimes, but you shouldn't put it on cruise control it all out. So I start talking to Sparky, and that way I can document it and go back to it later, because it's so often that we forget how we feel in that moment
Mhm.
when we're thinking about it 4 hours later or 2 days
Yeah.
later when you have the chance to process it. So to refill that tank, I've gotten much better over the last really few months, if to be honest with you, because I go through these, we all go through those roller coasters of ups and downs of when we feel really great and really low, and I'm kicking butt in my job right now and I'm not right now. So really over the last few months, as I'm just restarting and rebuilding our team and this division and just kickstarting some new branding efforts, and a lot of ideas are out there. So it's a lot in our minds. Like you said earlier, you feel like you got to do all these things for all, you're using your hands, right? Like all these things for all these people.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel every day, because of their thoughts are coming in, thoughts are going out. But sometimes we can't let all those thoughts out because that's detrimental to other people. So then I talk to Sparky, I get it all out there, and then I recalibrate, because then I can reflect better later if I actually remember, oh, I did actually feel that way.
Mhm.
How do I change? Maybe I said that because I was emotionally just quickly responding and reacting out of self-defense, or our bodies are designed that way. Our brains are designed to be very defensive. And so I've worked really hard over the years to just be curious, stay calm, but I can't get that way if I don't actually reflect on the real emotion. And the best way to reflect on a real emotion is to notice it when it's coming up, to notice it in the moment. And that is very hard to do, very hard to do. So, yeah, I would say, to summarize, write it out, write it down, go take a spa day, go turn your brain off, turn your phone off for 2 hours, and just do refocus a little bit. It does, honestly, it goes a long way.
ChatGPT has really changed how that can work for you. It's like you have a journal now that talks back to you. Like it's amazing. And I want to add too to what you said, because if I use ChatGPT kind of the same way, mine is named Donna. So I talk to Donna about stuff, but I feel like it's a way that you can take that step back too, because if you give it all of your feelings and you tell it all about the whole situation, and then you're like, okay, explain to me how this situation could have been perceived, or how did this person maybe take that, or why did they respond this way, or whatever. And it can give you others perspectives, which I think is so helpful. I've used it so many times, and it also protects you from that echo chamber thing where it's like it's going to agree with you, it loves you so much, it's going to tell you that you're amazing, but if you ask it, it will also give you other perspectives, which I absolutely love, and it's so helpful.
I agree. I love that you're using it that way as well, because now I don't feel so crazy when I'm driving down the freeway talking to Sparky. So thank you for that.
Yes,
But
you're not crazy.
but I do want to, this is a story that someone told me years ago, and it's not really a story. It's a way to think about when you are in a role where people are trusting you and they're thinking that you're guiding them. And the best analogy and the best thing that I ever heard so many years ago, and we talk about why I spit it all out to Sparky, or while I put it all on paper, or while I talk to my fake chat GPT friend, is, can you imagine? So I'm going to go back to the plane that Sully landed in the river,
Uh-huh.
right? That's in river. And I've told this before, and I've used it with teams before because it's such a profound analogy. He was the leader of the plane, the pilot of the plane. And when he knew something was wrong, I would be shocked. And I don't know Sully, I've never met him. If he ever hears this podcast, I don't even know. Is he even alive? I don't know. Probably
I
need to.
don't know,
Yeah.
but if he is, he's definitely listening to this podcast.
Okay. I should probably follow more entertainment and popular culture because I don't anymore. But when Sully, he's the leader of the plane, he's the pilot of the plane, and we knew something was wrong. I guarantee you, he was not calm on the inside. It's a, oh shit moment. And what I love is the people, every person survived after he landed that plane in the water. And everyone had great things to say. And of course, there was media and everyone wanted to condemn him and do, oh, was he doing this wrong with it? He saved all these people's lives. And I guarantee you, when he knew something was going wrong and he had to make that decision, I don't think he got on that speaker and was like, oh my God, everybody, we're all dying. Like, I I doubt that's what happened. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I think about that from a leader perspective. When we know the plane's going down, when we know that there's really bad news that we have to deliver, if we got on that loudspeaker and told everyone on our team we're all going to die, they're going to freak out. Mass hysteria, and they're not going to follow
Um,
you into that unless maybe they will. I don't know. But, and so I always try to think about when I'm in these situations where I know something really bad is happening and it boils up and it sucks. Again, referencing back, we're humans too.
Yeah.
And it feels heavy. But what I
Mhm.
try to remember is that story. And how am I showing up on that loudspeaker? Am I creating calm so that people want to still follow us, so that people know that they're going to be safe? I don't have all the answers. He didn't know what was going on with the plane. He didn't have all the answers. He just knew he had to go land it. And he had to land it somewhere very quickly with confidence and steadily. All I know is that I want to be the leader that shows up every day and I want to be fun. I want to be respected. Sure, we all want to be liked. That's okay too.
Yeah.
But I want to be the leader that people feel like, hey, I know maybe she's not always put together, but she sure is put together today and leads people in the right place, delivers bad news as gracefully as possible. And I'm not perfect at it. Lord knows that. But I had to have some situations in my career where I've known information and I had to show up the next day, dissolve an entire division and be in that room as with those people that I cared about and watched grow their careers and helped them through it, and they helped me and inspired me along the way and all the things. And it's not easy, but if we would have sat in that room and said, oh my god, we're all going down, we're all going to die, it probably would have been handled a little, their response would have been a lot different than the response that we had that day in the room several years ago when we dissolved an entire division of people. So I encourage everyone to be silly.
The world would be such a better place if we were. I love that. It's so hard. Like we do so many hard things as leaders. Like I can't imagine the feelings that you had when you had to do something like that. Like it's just so hard. And I think when I see a leader that's really anxious, and I talk about being anxious quite a lot because I think that it is the superpower for that leader. I think it comes from just such a deep caring and you want to do the right things and you're thinking of every single thing, every single outcome and option and everything that's happening because you care so much. So wonderful trait. But it can also be your kryptonite. It can be the thing that's going to just make everybody around you just think that they're going to die. I think it's a really good thing that you should not try to just lose. Like it's not necessarily something that you're like, I just need to have zero anxiety and then I'm going to be a better leader. That's not the answer. And I went down that path. At one point in my life, I was like, I just need to numb this. If I could just feel nothing and have zero anxiety, I'm going to be better. Not the answer. I learned that lesson, but it's just about trying to find a balance. And I always think, and I don't know if this is really helpful for everybody, but in that situation on the plane, it was life and death. That's like the very top, like that's pro level, like that's boss level of this that we're talking about. What we're dealing with here is typically not life or death. No one is actually going to die. Yes, it's going to impact their families. They're going to have maybe lose their job or whatever. There's big consequences, but they are going to be alive. Their family is going to be alive. It's okay. Like everyone is going to be okay.
That's right. No, yeah, but definitely an extreme. But I think that's what's so powerful about it. When I had an old boss of mine years and years ago that told me that, it was because I was working through a really difficult situation.
Yeah.
I it displayed clear anxiety through it all, and I didn't know how I was going to handle it, having to work with the situation at hand at the time. And while I appreciated that you saying clarifying, it's not life or death,
Yeah.
but if we could just get 1% better every day. If we could think through, hey, we're not the only ones out there that feel this way. And just because we have a title or we're taking the role of a leader in a situation, we don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to suppress anything. It's okay to, because it makes people actually trust people that show some vulnerability because they feel like then they can soft, just let go a little bit, take a breath, not feel so tense. But yeah, I think we can all learn from that story and just get 1% better every day in how we show up for ourselves, for others. Like when you told me that a long time ago, even that you try to just like condense and get rid of all this. I'm just choosing not to have anxiety. Okay, great. How did that go for you, Sarah?
The worst.
It's not going to do it. Oh, that would be great if we could do that.
Yeah, I wish it was just that easy, but that actually is not the answer. And no anxiety is actually not better. Even if you're like medicating it away or whatever, like it's not better to just not be human. And that's what I think I learned through that whole experience was like I be having anxiety and having all of these feelings and emotions and everything is a very human thing and it's something that we need, but it's just how you're able to handle it and manage it is the key, not that you need to make it go away.
That's right. Absolutely agree.
So I want to recap here and do this. We're getting close to when we're going to end our episode. I could make this episode go for another 2 hours, but I don't think our listeners have that long on their commute home. So I think moral of the story for me, my recap is that we all experience these fears, the uncertainty. We all have this chaos. And that when you're in a leadership position, it's not necessarily pushing it away or making it seem like it's not happening. It's not like putting a pretty rainbow blanket on it and being like, just it's fine, don't look over there. It's not about being fearless. It's about just staying grounded, being honest with yourself, being honest with those around you, and not allowing yourself to get into that spiral of we're gonna die. It's no, we've got this. Here's a plan, and we're gonna work that plan.
You summarized it. I think to tie a little bow on it, if as we wind down, if someone that's listening is just constantly feeling like they're battling their own thoughts and they aren't showing up great, they weren't sure if what they said was taken well, was taken with the right kind of feedback. Sometimes we deliver that's really challenging or we miss the mark. We all do it. I would say to summarize is I highly encourage anybody listening to read Emotional Intelligence 2.0 if they have not done so. But think about Bradbury's advice through that. And that's what I do often. And if my mentor coach is listening to this, he's going to know who he is and he's going to be very proud because this has been something he's been helping me work on for many years. And I would say, I'll leave you with a few statements here. Self-awareness is first. You mentioned pause. Think about that you can't manage what you don't recognize. So if you're not self-aware, start thinking about in these moments of high anxiety or stress that pause first, recognize where you're at when you're sitting in that emotion so that you can manage it. You can get better. Sometimes, as a reminder, reacting isn't always the best reaction either through words. So think about your body language. And then I would say learn how to be socially aware. Remember that person in front of you is also human. And it's okay that if you are in a stressful situation, that not only should you remember that they're human, but remind them that you are too. I think that's fair to say, hey, this is really tough for me. I know it's tough for you. It's okay to say that. Hey, this is really hard for me as well. That will help them remember that you also are a person and you're not a superhero because you have a name tag on or a title. And then maybe last but not least is think about who you are. Look at it back as a movie script, as a movie scene, or as a TV series or a show. Are you being honest? Are you being sincere in how you're showing up through these difficult conversations or maybe in a room full of people? It doesn't always have to be difficult. You can be standing up and you're getting ready to speak and it's not difficult. You're presenting something and you shut down on the inside. How many times have you met people who they're like, I'm not a good public speaker? And then they'll say at the end of it, they're like, I blacked out. You're like, you did a great job. I blacked out. I don't even know what I said. So I just encourage everyone to really, when they reflect, are they honest with themselves? Are they showing up great? Are they showing up with empathy? Are they understanding how their body's regulating that anxiety or that fear? And then ask yourself, what do I think my peers think about this? What do I think my friend thought about what I said? And go ask them. Go say, hey, I do this more now than ever. is when we get out of a presentation or a meeting, or even if it's good, it was good news, or I had to deliver something that I'm trying to, like recently I did a branding campaign, right? And I did a presentation with my marketing manager to my senior leadership. I really wanted all these things. I needed them to agree with me. And so when I was done, I asked them, what did you guys think? Ask for feedback.
Yeah. It's really helpful to have an accountability partner in that is, hey, this, we're going to go in here and tell me if you feel like I got this point across or whatever. That can be really helpful too. Just that outside perspective. I think when we go into like really big conversations, positive or negative, like we've got all of it right here. And we're like, okay, I'm going to say all of these things. And I'm like, I've got it all planned out. And then you black out and you're like, I don't even know. Did I say the thing? Did I do that? I have no idea.
I know. I've my sales teams over the years. I've had so many of them when we do like realtor presentations or grand openings, and we've got to stand up there and they're like memorizing, trying to memorize everything. And did I say memorize? You know what I mean. When they're trying to get everything that they need to say in 15 minutes at a presentation, and then they miss like half of it because they black out. So and I think we all are guilty of that when there's anxious moments. So try to just sit in it, breathe, pause, and remember how you're feeling in the moment, so that document that so you can go back to it later and remember that.
Yeah, those pauses are hard, but I feel like too, it gives everyone around you that pause too. Sometimes they also need just a breath. Like you've just given them a lot of information, so it can be helpful. Even though I'm one of those people, I'm like, oh my God, it's silent. I have to say something. You don't. Just let it say.
Yes.
Oh, Jenna, this has been so good. I feel like I got free therapy from you today. So
Well,
thank you.
you're welcome. I hope it was helpful. I really enjoyed it. I always enjoy talking to you. And I think it's special to really have this topic, like I mentioned earlier, because of the few days that we had to spend together a couple of years ago at that women's leadership retreat. I will say there was so much that I learned about myself as I watched you go through that. And some of it was about self reflection, anxiety, how we show up. Do we even sometimes care what other people think? Or we do care, and then we try not to, because, like you said, we suppress it. And it's okay to not have to be the strongest person in the room, but it's also okay to remember that vulnerability is different than emotional regulation, and it's okay to still be emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a mess at that retreat, but shout out to the Entrepreneur Project with Abby Cornelius and Abby Murata. It was absolutely transformational for me. And you were there. So you got to
Yes,
see that whole
it was
very
amazing.
emotional thing. But yeah, it's a journey. And I think we're all on it together. And I love that. And I love that we can have these conversations and hopefully be there for other people as they're making this journey as well. I definitely am not at the end of my journey. We can learn together.
Absolutely. We're never at the end of it ever. And I think, but there's power in that. There's power in recognizing that we should always be growing and we should always be self-evaluating so that we can be that 1% better every day. That's the first step, is being emotionally aware, self-aware. So
Yes.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. So if there's any of our listeners that are like, I need to talk to Jenna too, how can they connect with you? What would be the best way to get in contact with you?
Appreciate that. So I am on LinkedIn. It should be easy to find. I don't think there's any other, there might be one other Jenna Skuza out there, but so feel free to find me on LinkedIn. And then my email is just jenna.skuza@yahoo.com is more of my personal email, so that if you want to take your business offline and email me there, you certainly can.
All right, awesome. I'll put those links in the description box. And yeah, I just thank you so much for being here. This has been so much fun. And for our listeners, please this episode, please comment below. It means so much to not only to me to get the comments and to hear how our episodes like impact you, but I know it means a lot to our guests as well. And they like follow along in the comments. They share all of my guests have been so amazing. So if you're listening and you had any takeaways, please comment them, like the episode, and come back next week so we can see you again, and I'll have more guests and more things to share. So Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jenna, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye. See ya.